So I already did a review for Breach of Peace by Daniel Greene, and I gave it an amazing review, and I stand by this review. And I just kind of want to do another video with my thoughts more collected now that I got a physical copy and I'm back at my house, and just a little bit more collected because I've reflected on this book. Because I still think it was amazing. It was an amazing book, but I just want to reflect like what this was and how it happened. And so another review for Breach of Peace. Yeah, two of them. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to do another one because my first one was pretty successful, and I kind of like some more collected video and not just me raving about a book because I had just finished it and I had loved it, which I still stand by. But I'm just gonna give it a more collected review this time. So this is like the great thing about this is what's gonna be called the great thing about Daniel Greene's Breach of Peace, and this was his first novella. It's if you don't watch Daniel, he is very good booktuber and author now that this happened. And I read this when I was on a trip, and I read it in like 3 hours because that's how long the book was. I got it the moment it came out on Audible, and I read this on Audible. I probably might, because it's a novella, I might do a reread on just paper reread. So I just kind of want to do a collected thoughts video. It was an amazing book, and the characters were Samuel, Cliff, and what's his name? Chapman. Those were the characters, and all of these characters were executed very well, and that's what he does very good characters. And like there was like conflict. It was really like it kind of like felt like a prologue, or not a prologue, but like a first chapter of a story. I know he's addressed this, Daniel, but like he kind of wants the first trilogy of novellas just to be kind of one story, and so just so we can get up for his real novels, because this is a novella. That's probably why it feels like an extended chapter of a story, and it was very good, and it had conflict, and it had the climax was very like it was like good for a novella, and then it's just like, and he wants to put them all out pretty soon, like everything out pretty soon. So I'm glad that's gonna happen. I'm obviously gonna pick up the second book, which is unnamed yet, but yeah, he said it was good that this is just one like a first part of the story, because the criticisms that he got from this book he can kind of critique and fix in this next book that he's putting out, which I expect to be better. I mean, I already have like expectations, and I think he can, like, he's gonna still do amazing in this, like, because it's a 5-star read for me because it's a novella and he can pack so much into it. So these three characters, which are, they're all very good. Cliff is the main character, the one on this front. She has a smoking addiction, which is like you can see her already. Just like it'll be in random scenes, like, oh yeah, and then she had already put a cigarette in her mouth and she was trying to stop it. And then is her husband Samuel or Chapman? I'm very terrible at names. I just hope you know that. So it's Clid, right? Not Cliff. What did I call it? So and then like I want to do a spoiler section because this was crazy what happened in this book, and then but I'm not gonna do the spoiler section yet. This is gonna be fine. You know what? I'm doing spoilers. I don't care. So goodbye everyone who has not read this book, but Breach of Peace had a crazy ending, and I kind of want to talk about it. I already talked about it in my last review for it, which was my less talk for it. But like basically, her husband dies, and she's like running away, and there's no that's it, and there's like because it's a novella, and it kind of that's why it kind of felt like the first part of this book, because like her husband died, there's no resolution, he just dies, and we're going on, and like that's the end of the book, and so that kind of left you like, wait, like, is there more? That's what, because like a lot of times you can forget this is a novella. But I wasn't really like sad that her husband died. Like I wasn't sad because that there was not that much character development in that many pages. But you kind of felt it for her, just like her feelings, and it was like that's what it did good at, and it was an amazing, amazing book. So, it's a novella, so like that's kind of crazy that that happened in one novella, and like one other spoiler thing is, at the start of this book there was a gruesome crime scene, and I could read through it, but it was like kind of like it felt like kind of forced, like, oh yeah, like we're gonna do this gruesome crime scene, and there was like descriptions of like, oh, and his like spleen was over there, and then his heart was over there. It was like it kind of felt like forced, but I could read through it, and it was good. And then like there was like this evil like snake serpent thing, if I recall, and then that's kind of the conflict of this story, and yeah, it was good. The plot was good, and it felt like a setup book. Like the main conflict was kind of felt like forced just to have a conflict in this book because it's being like the first kind of chapter. Because it like they're all policemen, you can kind of see like kind of like all the intercollections through the police things, and so I am very impressed with this first novel overall, and this is a very it's not disappointing at all. So if you are contemplating picking that up, which I doubt you're still here because I just did a spoiler section, so, but I would read it, and I would definitely give it a 5-star, and I stand by my Goodreads review. So that's been another review, and I'm sorry I did this review twice. This is called The Great Thing About Great Breach of Peace. I already did my talk for Breach of Peace, so see ya in the next video.